Diabetes has two types of complications. One are the microvascular and two are the macrovascular. Anytime I say micro means smaller vessels. And then anytime I say macro, I mean larger vessels. So macrovascular and microvascular. So for the microvascular, I'll give you just a recap. For the microvascular, we have, of course, destruction of small blood vessels and the nerves. So we have peripheral neuropathy, which basically means numbness and that tingling effect and lack of sensation. We also have diabetic nephropathy. Nephro means the cells of the kidneys. So nephropathy, destruction of the kidney cells. And that's how we end up having hypertension. That's how we end up having anemia. That's how we end up in dialysis. And that's how we end up with kidney transplant as a result or a complication of diabetes. That is two. Number three, erectile dysfunction in men. Because sugars block the blood flow towards the penis. And for a penis to erect, you need blood flow towards it. It gorges with blood and then you have a strong erection. Now, when you're blocking blood flow towards the penis, there's no erection. Number two, sugar destroys nerves. We say it peripheral neuropathy. So nerves that supply the penis, sugar blocks them. Once sugar blocks those nerves, therefore you will end up having a very weak erection. And if you have any, you cannot sustain it for a prolonged period of time. And that's how you start using the Viagra. Okay, so that's how diabetes causes erectile dysfunction. So we have erectile dysfunction, we have peripheral neuropathy, we have nephropathy, diabetic nephropathy, and then, of course, some will experience loss of memory and all that. And then we have this blindness that is called retinopathy. Diabetes, retinopathy. Retina is the eye, okay? And then retinopathy is basically destruction of the eye. So those are the microvascular complications of diabetes. On the other hand, diabetes, actually sugar, and I've explained this in some videos, sugar blocks the larger blood vessels through a mechanism called atherosclerosis. When you block these larger blood vessels, what happens is you end up limiting blood supply to the heart, to the legs, to the brain, and all major organs, even the kidneys. Now, this will mean that these organs start to hurt, they start to die or become ischemic. And that is how we end up getting a heart attack. Now, I really wonder how cholesterol comes in to be blamed for causing heart attacks when we simply know atherosclerosis is a complication of sugars and not cholesterol. So stop blaming cholesterol. So atherosclerosis that will end up leading to peripheral vascular disease. That is blockage of arteries and bigger veins. We have a heart attack. We'll have a stroke. We'll have these amputations coming in as macrovascular. Okay, so all of them are hailing from one source, sugar. And when you talk about sugar, people start saying, oh, you need sugar for survival, oh, you need sugar for energy. You are so brainwashed to think that you need carbohydrates or sugars for energy. And the only reason why you need sugars for energy is because you've exposed your body and your gut to carbohydrates all through. So therefore, your body does not understand any other way of getting energy apart from getting it from sugars, which are carbohydrates. Your body has, today I was talking to a client who apparently was diagnosed with this reproductive health. She's a female. So she was diagnosed with these reproductive health issues. And then, of course, when she went to the doctor and she's been practicing what I've been preaching, she ended up taking a urinalysis test because I recommended that to her. And then they found ketone bodies in urine. They actually wrote ketones plus, 3 positives. And then now the lab technician was so scared about this, so he called the doctor, and the doctor was like, why are you starving? Mark you, this is a woman who has lost weight from 112, she's at 86 kgs. And now the doctor is busy telling her, why are you starving yourself? In fact, after you've done a scan, please come to my office and take some tea plus mandazis. The doctor is 114 kgs. And this is what I want with you guys. Look at your doctor, ask them questions. This lady actually asked the doctor to, to measure his weight. And of course, the guy was reluctant, but again, he decided to, because of, he put down the ego and decided to step on the weighing machine. This lady is 86. The doctor is 114 kgs. And the doctor is busy taking tea, the short tea, plus mandazis. And he's telling this lady that she should join him. And then now, of course, the obvious comes in, prescriptions and surgeries. Of course, she was scheduled for a surgery. But I believe that her condition is reversible without having to go to the surgery. I hope that she gets better so that we can actually justify this, and we will. So imagine This lady boldly tells the doctor, I put pim and see what a kilo. And then the doctor steps there and almost cracks the weighing scale. Hey, 114 kgs, a doctor. Hey, daktari. Hata kama. So now, and you're telling me to take short tea and you're telling me I'm starving. But this lady who had a rough idea of what she was going through because she was so excited about the results until the doctor was asking, why are you so excited when you're literally starving? Why are you excited and you're punishing your body? The lady is like behind her mind. So she's telling me, I was just telling myself, I wish this guy knew that this is the ketotic stage. Imagine somebody from the general public with no health information talking about ketosis and ketogenesis. The doctor is busy trying to tell you this is starvation and this might lead you to diabetes or to ketoacidosis. And you're there telling the doctor, no way. This is ketogenesis. It's not the same as DKA. It's not the same as ketoacidosis. Imagine that. These are the type of people we want out here. We want to make it so difficult for these people who have ego. We want to make sure that if you take a medication, if you go for any procedure, it is necessary. Imagine that. And that is the dream that I always harbor inside me. I always want to make sure that this gap is so bridged that you have all the information you need. By the time you're going to hospitals, you really need it. Right now, in our hospitals, people are sharing beds in the wards. So our intention is actually to ease the burden on the healthcare systems so that hospitals can only handle emergencies and cases that are totally necessary. Not anybody who has a headache is going to hospital. Not anybody who has this is going to hospital. And this is because we've made sure that the gap between the doctors and the public is so wide that if somebody comes to step in, he's attacked, he's seen as an enemy of the system. So that gap was totally intentional, right? So if you don't have the information, we can easily exploit you. Imagine if you come to me and I'm selling you this fear. Oh, this leg is rotting. We have to chop it off. Oh, you have endometriosis. We have to do a surgery. Oh, you have this bleeding. We have to remove your uterus. And the only solution is removal of the uterus. And I told this lady, doctors and Google, most of doctors and Google are in the same WhatsApp group. Now, if you're here and you are a lady and you know of a condition called adenomyosis, simply go on Google and type treatment for adenomyosis. We talked about it when we were talking about hormonal estrogen dominance, and we knew how to handle them. But just go on Google and type. This is me trying to make you understand that anytime you have a HIV scare and you go to Google and find HIV symptoms, exactly what you're going through is what will come on Google. This is selling you fear because Google is actually controlled by that whatever organization, you know it. Health information cannot be shared there unless these people approve it. And that's why your doctor is always talking about guidelines. And if you Google treatment options for adenomyosis, you will see that the only option for treatment is actually removal of the uterus. You might think I'm lying. Allow me to just take you through this. Treatment, this is Google, of adenomyosis. Now, adenomyosis is basically the uterine wall trying to grow inside the muscular part of the uterus. And they will tell you for free, the treatment is surgery and removal of the uterus. Hey, my friends. So when you become a Google doctor, this is what you'll experience. Yeah? So they'll tell you the only option, yes, the only option is hysterectomy. Hysterectomy means removal of the uterus. Now one day you'll go to heaven or even hell and you'll be asked, where are those organs? Because somebody gave you those organs. Where did you take them to? Why would you remove a uterus just because you have do you cut off the stomach because you have an ulcer? Story for another day. So anyway, a diabetic foot comes in as a combination of both the macrovascular and the microvascular. How does it happen? Remember, on the macrovascular, we are causing atherosclerosis. We are thickening this wall and narrowing the diameter of the blood vessel. As we do that, we limit blood flow towards the leg. We limit immune cells towards the leg. We destroy the nerves that supply the leg. Remember, neuropathy is actually a microvascular. Remember, atherosclerosis and limited blood flow towards the leg is actually a macrovascular. So we are combining macrovascular and microvascular to come up with an effect that is going to lead us to a diabetic foot ulcer. Imagine that. So these people who have been diagnosed with diabetes, sometimes their nerves are so destroyed because they start by feeling that tingling effect, they like needle-like piercings in the legs, sometimes very cold feet, and then it just graduates into no sensations at all. So sugar destroys the nerves totally, and now these people don't even feel any sensations in their legs. And even when they are walking, they don't even feel it. That's the reason why they wear shoes and they get hurt, but they don't notice it. They step on something that pierces their legs and forms this wound, but they don't even feel it. They don't even feel pain. They have too much weight and they're exerting weight on their soles. And these soles are causing frictions. There's a lot of frictions in their soles and they start causing an ulcer. They don't even realize it. So imagine somebody coming to hospitals and already their foot is actually getting infections, but they don't even know it because there's no pain, there's nothing. They are taking a shower, they don't feel the pain. They are wearing shoes, they are just okay. So by the time they are coming in, it's very late. And sometimes it starts like, you see, those people who have fungal infection in the feet, those white surfaces in the feet, when you wear socks that has with filthy legs and you start developing fungal infections in the legs. Remember also fungal infection is actually a complication of diabetes. So they end up having this and then they just have these wounds. And these wounds, they are not painful, they don't feel anything, and immune cells towards that wound is limited because we are narrowing blood vessels that carry immune cells towards the foot. And now this ulcer starts getting infections. Sepsis comes in. And these people can just pass out or pass away just because of that complication. And they didn't even know it. And therefore, the first therapy for the diabetic foot is to reverse blood sugars. Whether you like it or not, you will have to reverse blood sugars. It is so much criminal to have a parent or an uncle or a relative or a friend who is having diabetes and is suffering from diabetic foot, and they are eating wheat at brown chapati. They are in the wards being served with brown rice in the name of this one has fiber. They are being served with brown bread in the morning, plus tea that has milk. And then you're bringing them fruits, which are basically sugars, that are going to block even more supply of blood towards the legs. So they are there nursing this small wound. It is not healing. Why? Because we keep on constantly feeding diabetes. Constantly feeding diabetes. And when sugar is in blood, it's actually a good substrate for bacterial growth. Bacterial growth, they survive on this substrate. Fungi survive on these sugars in blood. So it is criminal for you to feed a diabetic person, specifically these ones who are going for dialysis, who are going for kidney transplant, who are actually suffering from already this diabetic feet. It is criminal for you to feed them any source of carbohydrates. Now you will say they need energy, but I will tell you burning fat will give them more energy. And if any case, somebody who is diabetic has a lot of energy stored in the fat cells in form of sugar. Sugar is stored as fats in the fat cells. By virtue of them even having high blood sugars that they cannot utilize, why do you find need to give them more sugars in form of carbohydrates? Why? Imagine that. This is why I tell you, common sense supersedes science. Nature supersedes guidelines. It is criminal. Sometimes just observe nature. Animals are more bright than human beings nowadays. Just look at animals, how they behave. Just look at nature. You will find solutions there. You don't need any science. You don't need science to prove nature. Science gets to a point where nature takes over and science is just defeated totally. But what do you want? You want peer-reviewed papers. Instead of asking how your great-grandfather used to live, you're asking for peer-reviewed papers from the West. Who bewitched you? So yes, so that's how it starts to happen. Now you have a small prick on the leg. You don't feel the pain because you have nerve damage. That is one. Number two, you cannot ferry immune cells there because for you to heal that wound, you need immune cells towards that wound to start the healing process. But you can't do that. Why? Because there's limited blood flow towards the leg. Even the heart is struggling to pump blood through these narrowing and stiff blood vessels that are actually been stiffened by sugars. Okay? So it's difficult, yes. But by the time you're getting to a gangrenous foot, you've eaten yourself there. And somebody told me that all of us deserve what is happening to us. Hello? All of us deserve what is happening to us. If you're dying from diabetes, if you're dying from cancer, you see, the problem is we think we are so good that we can empathize with people. We are not. Nowadays, even charity is fake. Charity is for the cameras. And now, because it concerns us, so we think we are so good, we need to take care of these people, we need to be empathetic. The reality is, change starts from within you. Nobody's coming in to change your life. Change has to start from within you. So if you sit there waiting for us to empathize with you, we'll just walk. We'll do those diabetic walks with you. But remember, as we are doing that diabetic walk, it is you who will end up having this diabetic foot, because that that walk and the shoes that you're wearing are actually going to cause friction and you get a diabetic ulcer. We will not suffer that. We will walk to support you because we want to make you feel good and accommodated. And I told you, some of these diabetic organizations are just criminal. Somebody gets a lot of funding and then buys you t-shirts. You wear those t-shirts, he gives you fruits, he gives you juices and energy drinks. As you're doing those walks, you're wearing those t-shirts. The only thing you don't know is he has made a living out of you. And I told you the other day, I saw this guy doing a walk in town for mental health in men. I'm like, mental health in men? What do you mean? Mental health walk. And now you have to, you have to make men who are resting deeply. By the way, did you know depression is just depressed? Men were built to create. So when you're not creating, you will be depressed. Choose you. Either you create or you rest deeply. So yeah, I was told everything that is happening to you, you deserve it. This is not to disrespect people who have these conditions, but the reality is you have control over everything that is happening to your life. Just lower the ego. Once you lower the ego, you'll see the bigger picture. But the problem is, you have seen all the professors, you have seen all the specialists, you've wasted money, flown all the way to India and back. And now you are at the brink of just going. And even in that problem, in that issue, in that depressed state, you cannot listen to alternative things. You can't. Imagine that. Imagine how ego blocks you from seeing the light. You have done all these things and you've seen the best doctors in the country or even abroad. But I want you to know you cannot buy health. Your health is just in the kitchen. You cannot buy health. If health was easy to buy, we wouldn't have all these billionaires dying. We wouldn't have them dying from complications of sugars. So choose you. Health is your first wealth. So combination of both micro and macro gives you neuropathy, which is destruction of the nerves, gives you atherosclerosis, which is blockage of blood vessels, and that is a sugar problem. And now you have the diabetic ulcer, the foot, and now you cannot heal it, and now it starts to grow, starts to get gangrenous, starts to get infections, and now you die from the complication of that. Now look at it this way. You have a very small wound that you can actually easily heal through dietary modifications. And now we are unable to treat that small wound or that small ulcer, but we want to create a larger wound by chopping off your leg. How do you think you will survive? Hello? So that small wound was not enough. We were unable to treat it. We gave you the medications, they did not work because medications for diabetes are actually going to get you in problems. So we gave you those medications, they did not work. We put you on insulin therapy, it did not work. And now we are unable to treat this wound because we've been treating it with honey, washing it with honey, cleaning it and dressing it every time, but we are not fixing the cause of that wound. We are simply telling you continue eating what caused you diabetes and the foot ulcer, but we will fix this symptom. So we give you antibiotics, nothing is happening. We give you more insulin therapy, nothing is happening. We clean that wound with honey, nothing is happening. But look at you. And now we have to recommend chopping off that leg. Aye. So now we create a bigger wound than the smaller wound that we were unable to treat. How do you expect us to treat it? If we are unable to treat that small wound, how are we going to treat this larger wound? I mean, sometimes ask these questions, all about common sense. Imagine that. So now I've chopped off your leg, and now there's a bigger wound, but I've not, the diabetes is still there. So even blood flow towards that wound to heal, problems. And most of you had drained your pockets and your insurance just dressing an amputated foot. If you're lucky to come out of that theater, because people pass or die due to complications of diabetes and the complications of just that surgery, the amputation surgery. So now you've come out clean, at least no complications for the surgery. Now you're here, and now we have a bigger wound than we had earlier. So please tell me, ama mimi ndo naona vibaya? Mimi ndo wazimu ama nini? Am I crazy? That I am unable to handle this smaller wound, this small ulcer in your leg. And now I've chopped off your leg, and now you have a bigger wound. So how am I going to manage this larger wound? Yet I am unable to change your situation in terms of diabetes. I have, and by the way, look at it this way. I have already sold you the fear that if I don't chop off this leg, you will end up dying because of gangrene and sepsis. Number two, I've already told you that diabetes is irreversible. So therefore, you cannot blame me. Whatever you're going through is your business, right? I mean, I washed my hands. I told you diabetes is irreversible. So yes, it is irreversible. So how do you expect me to help you? I'll just chop off your leg and let you suffer. Somebody's asking me, this is Pauline, but why are they doing this? It's because we don't ask questions. This is the reason why we need to ask questions. And you see, in a hospital setup, it's actually designed to mislead everybody. You walk into a hospital, you have about 10 minutes in the consultation room. You introduce yourself, and then the doctor asks you, shida iko wapi? So somebody asked me, one day hata wewe utaulizwa na patient, hata wewe daktari shida yako iko wapi? How do you respond? You start getting angry, daktari, when you did a whole year of psychology to just understand how to deal with patients. But now this is a patient who is here, he's not even psychotic, and you're unable to deal with them, you're getting angry. Why are you getting angry? So unaulizwa shida iko wapi? When you're asked where is the problem, you start saying your problem. So actually you're not even saying your problem, you're saying the symptoms. When you say the symptoms, what the doctor does is, in his head, he's actually suspecting these are symptoms of this disease, maybe typhoid, maybe brucellosis, maybe malaria. So let me send them to the lab to do this test to just confirm my doubt. And then when you send to the lab successfully sells you fear through results. You see a lipid function test, you see a cholesterol test, and all the cholesterol are overshooting, and you're like, whoa, and then doctor tells you, see now your cholesterol levels are so high, it's time for you to drop the eggs. And then you drop the eggs and your cholesterol even shoot more higher. And then you go back to the doctor and he tells you, you don't even ask daktari, I've dropped the eggs, why are my cholesterol levels still going up? But you go there and the next thing the doctor is doing is writing you now a prescription to block your liver from making cholesterol. And then you don't ask the doctor what are the side effects of these drugs, because again, you don't have the time, right? You just come in, I send you to the lab. By the time you're coming from the lab, already the results nowadays, it's always about the system. You come in, the results are already in the computer. So before you even come in, I'm seeing your results there. I just press the number, I see your result there. When I see the results, I'm already writing drugs. So you don't even have time to ask me a question. And then I give you the drugs. Then you go to the pharmacy and you realize these drugs are not there. You become so upset. And this is what you people do. You even demonstrate because there are no drugs in hospitals, instead of demonstrating that the market near you has no foods, natural foods. You are so happy that there's a new supermarket in your area, but you are so upset that there are no drugs in hospitals. You see how you're conditioned to think? So when you start thinking that drugs are the solutions to your bad eating habits and your bad kitchen, that's how we exploit you. That's how we do it. That's how we know you are a slave for a lifetime. And this is the reason why you never see it. differently. You're always hoping that every consultation has to end in a prescription. That if a doctor does not write you a prescription, this is not the right doctor. You will change the doctor. You go to another one who is a quack. Will write you a prescription instead of addressing your dietary modifications and lifestyle changes. Some of your diseases, actually most of your diseases, are actually hypochondric. They are in your head.